I'm not afraid of being vulnerable. If I'm not okay and someone sees me, what do I do? What do I say? Just say I'm not okay, and you know, you never know. It's good to talk it out. It's good to have a conversation.
It's that kind of profession. You're going to have ups, you're going to have downs. I think it's as important how you deal with your ups as you deal with your downs. And just know that nothing is permanent. If it's good today, it doesn't mean it's going to always be good.
There was one chapter which is, oh, you need to begin with a fresh mindset, you know, and that's exactly what I do. There are days where you feel low, I end up crying also, and it's okay to cry.
Hello Aditya, hi Mrunal, and welcome to ETimes.
Hi.
Firstly, I have to compliment you for the trailer. It looks like so thrilling, and it was a lot of fun to see it, and I can't wait for the suspense to unveil.
Oh, thank you.
So, did you guys, think the same when you all read the script from an audience perspective? It was thrilling for you?
Yeah, it was. I think once I read the script, I felt like this film has enough tricks up its sleeve, as this genre should have. You know, it should always be one step ahead of you, always have something to surprise you with, and I think this film has that.
What about you?
So when I was in the narration, I heard the story. They asked me, should we take a break because interval hai? I said, no, just continue, because I can't wait to know what's the suspense. I think within 30 seconds, I knew I was doing this film because it was so intriguing. And I think as an audience, I want to watch a movie like that. I want to sit on the edge of my seat and just experience the treatment, the build-up, and who's done it and why, and all those questions.
Absolutely. Aditya, for any actor, I think a double role is a treat because they get to do so much variety within just a film. And even when I saw the trailer, I just could make out the difference between two characters. I didn't feel like it was the same person doing it, which is a great compliment for you if one feels that from the trailer. So what did you think of it, and how difficult was it to make those changes drastically between these characters?
Yeah, I guess one of those challenges are to make them feel different, but obviously all of us are aided by good writing, and I think when I read the script, both of the characters felt like different people on the page. So that really helps, So then it gives you a clear demarcation when you're trying to kind of find those clues. And I think we were a little restricted with our look because we couldn't have them look too different. And I think you'll realize that when you see the film, why. So we had to play around with costume, a little bit with makeup, but beard and hair and all that had to be kind of the same. So it was more about finding a way to make them different in the way they spoke and their mental kind of setup.
But also the body language, the way he would walk on set, I would know today it's Ronnie, today it's Arjun.
Right.
So I think that made a huge difference. And the body language, it's so important, otherwise then it gets difficult.
True. You have to feel it.
Yeah, you have to feel it. Yeah.
But could you switch on and switch off easily between both the characters?
That was one of the challenges. There were some days when I was just shooting one character, but there were many days where I had to jump between the two of them. And sometimes if it's a scene between me and me, I have to do this, change, do that, change, come back to this. So it can be a little tricky, and that's when a great director comes in. I think it's Vardhan's first film, but he was very, very much in charge. Very much in charge of performance as well. He would tell me every now and then, "Isme thoda Arjun aa raha hai. Take it out." Sometimes I would speak a certain way. I say, "It's sounding like Arjun." So you need that person to be able to look at you from outside and give you that guidance, which I got from him.
True. And now you come to this film after something like a Sitaramam, where you were so graceful, petite, you had a certain body language over there, and here you're a police inspector who's disciplined, who's stern. How was that change for you?
Oh, it was a nice, it was a different experience though. And if you ask me, all the films that I've played, the characters I've played in the past, they're emotional, they have, they're expressive. But when it comes to Shivani in Gumraah, she's at work. So when you are at your work, you have to maintain a decorum. You can't be emotional. You can't get your personal problems, at the police station. And all you got to do is just solve the case. So I think it was more of a mind game for me. I wish I had some nice action, gun nikal ke chada rahi hu, those kind of scenes. But nevertheless, it was interesting because it's a mind game. And I felt like what was the moment you wear the uniform, you suddenly feel the power. You feel like there's something happened, you know, that's something that Vardi does to you.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed playing a cop, to be very honest. And when I would go back home, my mom would say, "What's wrong with you? Just calm down." But trust me, it was difficult. Vardhan really made sure that the cuteness was kept aside, and I had to be firm, which was a little difficult because masti to meri karti rehti hu. So he would tell me, "Stop, Mrunal." He would show me the previous take and tell me that what is it that I need to do or alter. And that's what I really adore about Vardhan, is that he's crystal clear, his vision, his shots. He knows exactly what he wants, and he would not waste our energy on other takes which he's not going to use it. So shot division wise, I think he had prepped the film. Also because there was COVID and there's so much time he had spent on the character as well, which was like a blessing in disguise for us as a performer.
Aditya, I remember during our earlier conversations, you had said once that a quote from Harrison Ford, where you said that you know, one should be able to be vulnerable or be a fool on camera or be a wimp on camera, and
Right.
and it's a part of an actor's job to be vulnerable on screen. Can you recall your characters, any of your characters, where you actually had to be really vulnerable as an actor on screen and it took a lot from you emotionally?
I think every day you have to be vulnerable. Every day, every time you walk on set, you're in front of 200 people. You know, the clock is ticking, and you have to evoke an emotion on cue. You always feel vulnerable, which is why when you have a great set of people around you, it makes such a big difference. And when it's like a sacred space that is created over a few days. It becomes like one family, where over time that you feel even open being vulnerable in front of those people, and you feel like they protect you. It's a lovely thing in its own way, you know, making movies. But yeah, I think once you commit and you're in character, I've never had to think about it like that, where I feel like today I have to be more vulnerable than others. I think once you're in there, you're in, you know. I don't look at it like today I need to kind of be specially vulnerable. It's the character is doing what the character is doing.
Yeah. Mrunal, have you specifically been more vulnerable for a character, or like emotionally some character has been draining in that sense?
Yes, to begin with, Love Sonia, I think it was one of the most challenging characters for me, because she had to be vulnerable, she had to be emotionally, I mean, so naive. And how do you play naive? That's the most difficult thing. How do you play naive? You just have to put your guards down and just surrender to the director and just feel like that's happening to you. But that actually takes a toll on your mental health, and you know, when you go back home, it just doesn't leave you. So, but like Adi said, right, you can't decide that, you know what, today I have to be vulnerable, today I have to be strong or determined, or...
Yeah, there are some days where you have one really big monologue and you have to shout, and there's some days you feel a little more exposed than others. It's just the way the scene is set up. If you're standing there and you're talking to 200 people, simple things like that.
Also depends who's there with you, like who's performing with you.
Yeah.
So sometimes it can get intimidating. Sometimes you do feel vulnerable because the character I've never played before, and you know, the first initial days of, no matter how strong your character is, or no matter how you know, different the character is, you are vulnerable.
Absolutely. But having said that, the contrast to this is that while your characters want you to be vulnerable, off screen you think that you have to be sort of thick-skinned, because say someday if a film doesn't work, your career is not really going the way you'd want it to. Have you had moments like these where you're like, no, now I can't be vulnerable off screen? Have you been affected, like, you know, before, if you had a phase where probably a film hasn't done well, or you've given your all to it, and and you're constantly in the social media, and you're constantly in the public eye. So do you find that balance, both of you?
I mean, we have to find a balance, right? Like, because every day there's a new chapter, every film is a new beginning. So I make sure that as an artist, I can give 100% when it comes to like, when I started with television, we wouldn't work for TRP. We would work for this like scene, we would equally put the same amount of hard work. Same with the movies as well. If the film doesn't do great, if doesn't receive the love that it deserves to, obviously you feel bad, but you move on. It's a new, there was one chapter which is over, you need to begin with a fresh mindset, you know, and that's exactly what I do. There are days where you feel low, I end up crying also, and it's okay to cry, or there's no big deal.
Yeah, but it was such an inspiration, the post that you did 2 days back. It was such an inspiration for so many of your fans.
Thank you.
And I read comments like, you know, everywhere people were talking that it's so nice for an actor to come out and open like that.
Yeah, because I'm not afraid of being vulnerable. There are a lot of people who are so scared of being vulnerable. They're like, oh my God, if this person, if I'm not okay and someone sees me, what do I do? What do I say? Just say I'm not okay, and you know, you never know. It's good to talk it out. It's good to have a conversation sometimes.
It gave strength to many people who were going through the same thing.
I'm glad.
Yeah. Aditya, you know, I remember you had taken a break before Kalank for 2 years, and you said it changed you as an actor. You know, but have you faced any time where, you know, you had to stop yourself from being affected through, you know, everything else that comes in with being an actor?
No, all the time. Yeah, it's that kind of profession. You're going to have ups, you're going to have downs. It's going to be it's going to have its own peaks and troughs, and you have to be ready for that. And I mean, I got a taste of that from my very first film. So I've had all of those, and I've gotten better at dealing with both. I think it's as important how you deal with your ups as you deal with your downs. You know?
Correct.
And just know that nothing is permanent. If it's good today, it doesn't mean it's going to always be good. And if it's bad today, it's not always going to last. So yes, it's easy. All this is easier said than done. In the moment when you are going through a tough phase, it's important to feel that and not be in denial about where you are, but also knowing that it's not the end of the world. Nothing is the end of the world other than the end of the world only. So it's all good. Just have faith in your own abilities and keep your focus on what drives you, what keeps you going, which is my love for acting, my love for movies, and as long as those things are in place, you're good.
Thank you so much, guys. This was so much fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.